Thank you, John, and good evening. And it's a real pleasure to be back. You know, I've enjoyed hearing a bunch of conversation tonight of folks saying, well, first of all, the EDA conference continues to grow year after year. So honestly, that's a testament to economic developers of Alberta, and I would invite you to join me in thanking the board for all the exceptional work that they do. It may have something to do with beer pong and the fact that, you know, you folks work hard and play hard, which is not a bad motto at all. And so, you know, it's a pleasure to be here to join you on traditional Treaty 7 territory at your annual dinner and awards banquet. And I want to say that there's a number of us that have been following each other from conference to conference, and Todd and I were talking about that. And so I don't know how much we're going to mix up our presentations, but if you haven't heard, and I'm going to give you a plug, Todd, if you haven't heard Todd Hirsch's presentation, he's presenting tomorrow. You're going to want to be here for it. He's got incredible graphics, and hopefully the slides don't get messed up like at Growing the North there, where the punchline went ahead of, you know. Anyway, it got a little messy. But thrilled to be here on behalf of Premier Notchley and the Government of Alberta. And I do want to recognize that I do have a colleague here from the Alberta Legislature, Richard Gottfried. If you can join me in welcoming, thank you for joining us. And I do want to give a shout out to Repsol. I've had a great conversation over dinner and thrilled that they've been a sponsor of EDA for a number of years, and so greatly appreciated. You know, and for me, one of the aspects that I absolutely love about my ministry is the opportunity to truly collaborate between the public sector, municipal leaders, which I know the room is full of municipal leaders from all over the province, the Government of Alberta, and also, of course, the private sector. And it just goes to show how much we can accomplish when we do partner together. So I'm gonna jump right into this because you're still in for at least 20 minutes. So, you know, when they come by for coffee, make sure you grab coffee. But I want to start off with the state of the economy. And I know that I think everyone in the room was very happy to put 2016 behind us. That was a very, very challenging year. And I know that we are not out of the woods yet. And there are still many communities, families, Albertans that are continuing to feel the impact of the significant drop and sustained low price of the price of oil. And this is where, you know, a number of initiatives through my ministry, Economic Development and Trade, this is part of the reason why we introduced the Alberta Jobs Plan. And I am going to touch on a number of our initiatives. For some of you that have heard this before, I would encourage you to take the time to help spread the word. And there's a series of initiatives that I will go through, but I can tell you that they are only effective if we are getting the word out that there are supports available to our municipalities and to our business sector. And so I encourage you to tweet out and use social media to help get the word out. And I will call on you to do a few other things throughout the speech. First and foremost, Alberta will lead the country in economic growth for the next 2 years. In both 2017 and 2018, there are conservative economists that put it at around 2.2 to 2.3. There are others, like the Conference Board of Canada, that put it around 2.8. But regardless, Alberta is set to lead the country both in 2017 and 2018 in economic growth, which is very, very positive. Between January and February, our labor market created more than 19,000 full-time jobs. And this is really dangerous at this slide, so yeah, if I go over, we're all in trouble. At the same time, our international exports climbed to 8.3 billion, more than 16% higher than a year ago. Our oil sands production are expected to set records in 2017. And I already used that bullet, so I will continue to move on. I want to start off with talking about a number of initiatives, and can I just ask, show of hands, how many of you attended AAMDC earlier this week in Edmonton? Okay, excellent. Good. Well, you know that a couple of things. One, and I said this at AAMDC, when our rural communities do well, Alberta does well. And when Alberta does well, Canada does well. And so our rural communities are absolutely critical to the well-being of our province, and you are economic drivers within our province. This budget that we've announced, there are some critics, not MLA Gottfried, but there are some that are critical of it. But I want to just talk a little bit about the fact that we made a choice to invest in Alberta, in our municipalities. And I can tell you that this is the largest infrastructure build that Alberta has embarked upon. 26 cents of the infrastructure investments that we are making, 26 cents on every dollar, are going to municipalities to build critical infrastructure. And that's almost $2.5 billion alone this year. That's to build not only schools and hospitals, I mean, these are the amenities that we rely on and the critical services that we rely on, but it's also, and now I'm jumping ahead of myself, but it's about critical infrastructure, trade corridors, bridges and roads that we need to get our products to market. We can be the #1 producer of whether it's a grain or a livestock, but if we cannot get it to market, then it's not doing us any good. And so we are investing, and I'll give you a bit of a frame for this. Alberta is investing more in our municipalities than any other province across the country. Last year alone, we paved and widened more than 1,500 kilometers of highway. That's hundreds more than the length of the entire province, from Fernie to Fort Vermilion. We repaired or replaced more than 100 bridges. And all of you know that bridges are absolutely critical to moving our goods and services. Over the next 4 years, we're building over 26 new schools. There are 76 wastewater projects, and now is when municipalities should be clapping, because water and wastewater is absolutely critical. We're working on major projects like the Peace River Bridge, expanding the crossing at Fort Saskatchewan, and replacement for, yes, I too am excited, and replacement for Highway 813 Bridge near Athabasca. And so, a part of the decision of where we are and the decision that our government made, we do need to take a quick step back and look at how we got here. There are some that praise decisions that were made in the 90s, but what I need to clarify, and municipal leaders in this room will know, is that the budget was balanced, but it was balanced on the backs of municipalities. There were services and critical infrastructure that was downloaded onto municipalities. And so, frankly, I mean, you look at some of the conditions of roads and bridges, schools and hospitals that we have throughout the province, and it's because there wasn't enough invested in our infrastructure. And so we have chosen, as opposed to others that have proposed cuts of billions of dollars to the budget, that now is the time to invest. And it's the time to invest in especially critical infrastructure. And again, many of you will know this. Right now is not the time, when we've already have experienced tens of thousands of layoffs in the private sector, to go and exacerbate the problem by laying off tens of thousands of people in the public sector. Our investments in critical infrastructure are also putting tens of thousands of Albertans to work, again at a time when it's needed. For the critical infrastructure and the value that it serves, but also to ensure that we are putting men and women of Alberta to work and back to work to help in the economic recovery. And in fact, and I won't put Todd on the spot, but other economists have said that there are two predominant reasons of why Alberta is forecasted to lead the country in economic growth. One of them is the infrastructure build that we are engaging on, which is having a significant positive impact on our economy and on our GDP. And the other reason is because of the two pipelines that were approved to Tidewater. Yes, I think that is definitely worth an applause. Although I am going to come back to that. So I'd like to just, and my speech is going to go way longer than 20 minutes. You better signal for more coffee. I'm like 10 minutes in and I'm on page 2. So, but this is why you invited me back, right? Last year I went long too, I'm sure I did. So I want to do a little comparison or a juxtaposition of Alberta to a province that many like to compare us to, Saskatchewan. Let's talk about Saskatchewan for a second, because they just released their budget. You've got significant tax hikes going on in Saskatchewan. PST, something that we do not have in Alberta. Now, I'll give kudos where kudos are due. Previous governments did not introduce a PST, neither did we. Saskatchewan enjoys a great provincial sales tax of 6%. In this budget from Saskatchewan, they've introduced massive cuts to education, to healthcare, hundreds of millions of dollars that were supposed to be invested in schools and hospitals have now been canceled. You've got, and this floors me, I don't know if you've seen this budget, but some of their tax cuts are on, or tax increases, pardon me, are on things like children's clothes are now more expensive in Saskatchewan. Lloydminster is going to have a heyday, the Alberta side anyway. To construction, which has just gotten much more expensive. And so my only point here is that, governments have a choice. And the choice that we made was a difficult choice, but it was to ensure that we continue to have the frontline services that Albertans rely on, whether it's a teacher in the front of your kid's classroom, to healthcare that's available and accessible when you need it, to investing in infrastructure that is long overdue. That is the choice that we made. And I can tell you that I stand behind it 100%. I recognize that we need a path back to balance. We cannot continue to be in the red year over year. But at the same time, I can tell you that there are other jurisdictions that have made the choice to make significant cuts, or even Alberta's history, you go back enough, and we've chosen a different path. So, we're investing in post-secondary institutions, and in fact, today Minister Schmidt was down in Medicine Hat. Anybody from Medicine Hat? Other than our friend from Repsol, who's originally from Medicine Hat. $4 million being invested in their college to convert their college to be accessible for all Albertans who want to attend the Medicine Hat College, which is significant. We made investments in Northern Lakes College in High Prairie. We have made investments in health facilities in Lloydminster. And I don't mean to keep talking about Lloydminster, but it just seems very timely. To housing and seniors lodges from Banff. I'd be really shocked if there's nobody here from Banff when we're in Banff. To Leduc, to Barhead, Canmore. Well, that's, you win by proximity. The other thing that we're investing in, and this will be of significant importance to you, is recognizing how critical our trade corridors are. I mentioned that earlier. So Alberta Transportation is in the middle of doing a study, a comprehensive study on high and heavy load, the network within Alberta. We're about halfway through it. I was just talking to Minister Mason about this. It will be done in about a year. And it's looking at, again, what are the investments that we need to make to ensure that we can get our products to the market. We know, obviously, that Alberta is a landlocked jurisdiction, and so We are working with partners, Western provincial governments, with others, and I can tell you that the Port of Vancouver and Prince Rupert are our gateway to the Pacific. In 2015, Alberta businesses exported over $8.5 billion through those two ports. And we recognize that we need to look at opportunities to expand that, to address things like traffic bottlenecks and our capacity to coordinate our performance within economic corridors. And so I want to say that following a request from the Alberta Chamber of Resources, Minister Mason approved a pilot project that's testing the feasibility of moving an Alberta heavy module from the Edmonton area to Fort McMurray. I can tell you that the move requires a 3-file trailer instead of a typical 2-file trailer. The findings of the pilot showed exceptional potential benefits to the province by making oil sands project construction more competitive for northeastern Alberta and for fabrication shops in and around Edmonton. And so there are a number of folks that were quite impressed with that and moving forward on the pilot. So that's infrastructure in a nutshell. Is anybody timing this, by the way? Actually, when I see people's heads go down to their phones, then I know that it's time to wrap up. So a couple of other projects that we've rolled out that are really exciting is, and I'm sure you've all heard of this, and if you haven't, you're living under a rock, the Community and Regional Economic Support Program, the CARES program. 65 successful applicants in the first intake window. The next intake window opens April 1st. And so I'm going to say this a number of times during my remarks, but if you haven't, you need to visit the website jobsplan.alberta.ca. Every single one of the programs that have been, that we've put through the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade are there on the website. And you're going to want to visit it, and you're going to want to tell your friends about it. Because if they are a business owner or you are a business owner, you're going to want to look at the supports that we made available to help our businesses and municipalities. So CARES, exciting news. I know that many of you municipal leaders in the room and even economic development entities were eligible to apply. You've received your letters, the successful ones from the previous intake window. Over the next few weeks, we will be announcing these projects. And again, more importantly, the next window is opening. What CARES does is it gives you an opportunity, so the economic developers of Alberta, the municipal leaders, the community leaders, an opportunity to partner with the government of Alberta and to identify economic projects in your communities. What I love about this project is, I'll take advantage of this. What I love about this project is it's you identifying the opportunities in your communities and then coming to the government of Alberta to say, we have real potential in A, B, C, D, E. We need a little bit of help to either draft a business plan, to do a study, to be able to determine what are the economic impacts if we invest in X. And what I love about it is it's community driven. This is not the government of Alberta saying, we're going to tell you what you need to do to drive your economy. You know better than anybody in this province. And so this is a program that is designed to give you the support to get moving on these projects so that we can look at all of the opportunities. And I would argue that Alberta has more opportunity than any other province in this country, hands down. One of the bodies that helps us identify this are the REDAs throughout the province. We have 11 REDAs throughout Alberta. This is one of the ways that we work with our communities to support. I know many municipal leaders are a part of their regional economic development agencies. And very happy to say that, again, through the CARES funding, last year we doubled the funding for REDAs to help you move forward on some of the ideas and projects that you have. You guys are a very applause-happy crowd. How free-flowing was the wine this evening? Although I met you guys last year, didn't I? No, I was going to pull myself off the speech. I'll make a comment about this new venue. So another two programs that, again, I really need to thank you for your input and your support. The two tax credits that we introduced, the investor tax credit, the capital investment tax credit, those both came from you. We heard and I heard and my colleagues heard loud and clear from economic developers, from the private sector, business leaders, municipal leaders. Alberta has been at a disadvantage for years over other provinces that have had tax credits to help their citizens invest in their businesses. And we haven't had this. And so I'm very proud of the fact that we introduced the investor tax credit and the capital investment tax credit. And the best part about these is not the 30% tax credit that you can receive from investing, although that is a bonus. The best part is this is an opportunity for Albertans to invest in their own backyard so that Albertans can invest in Alberta companies to help them grow and scale and hire more people. And I can tell you that between our two tax credits, we are anticipating it'll support at least 9,000 jobs and bring in at least $1.2 billion of new investment into our province. Three minutes left? Oh, that's good. I'm on page 5. Can we get some more wine for the room, please? I know the way to your heart. All right, fair enough. Red wine. Okay, I will speed this up. So I've talked to a few people about our entrepreneurship incubators. And, you know, what's a stat that I love to hear is that Alberta's small businesses with incubator support have an average growth rate of 25%. The national average is less than 5%. And so we know that businesses do better when they are supported, not only financially, but also with mentors and experts. I mean, many of you are in this room. And so that's a real testament to the work that you do and the impact it has. We've allocated $10 million toward the Entrepreneurship Incubator Program. A couple of them have been announced. The Premier announced the first one in Medicine Hat. I announced one in Grand Prairie. There are more to come, and we'll be announcing them soon. When we talk about diversifying our economy, and I had a great conversation about that, and I think I talked to you about this last year, that when I talk about and our government talks about diversifying the economy, we're not talking about, you know, throwing mud at the wall and hoping something sticks, or investing in companies like Nortel or others that turned out to be a big flop. We know what our strengths are in this province. We are, and Alberta is, the energy and environmental leader the world needs for the 21st century. We know that. There is incredible demand worldwide. I can tell you that every trade mission I lead to Asia and to China, the first thing they ask is, when are you going to get a Canadian pipeline built so that we can buy your energy? One of the other programs that I'm very, very excited about, and again, we talked about it, we had a good conversation over dinner, is the Petrochemical Diversification Program. Now, there's got to be people here from Industrial Heartland. Oh, you put them in the next room. Okay. I'm just joking. So, the PDP program, we had 16 international applications, a significant amount of interest, and I was just talking about this with John, that companies that upgrade propane or other products in the Gulf Coast, I've had numerous conversations with, and they've said, you know what, once a facility is up and operating, it's actually cheaper in Alberta than it is in the Gulf Coast. And the number one reason is because of our feedstock. But the hurdle is that in Alberta, you've got weather conditions. We've got 4 seasons in one day, where, in other parts of the world, they at least have seasons that last longer than a day. We have a number of other factors, including an increased cost of materials. And so companies said, listen, help us level the playing field, and we will invest in upgrading propane and methane. And so we introduced the Petrochemical Diversification Program, and now the first jurisdiction in Canada to upgrade propane into propylene and polypropylene is here in Alberta. And frankly, folks, it is long overdue. We have an abundance of a feedstock. We have a wealth of expertise. And frankly, this is building on the vision that Peter Lougheed had many, many decades ago. And, I'm have no problems with giving him a shout out, because he was a premier with vision and saw the opportunity and decided to invest in it. We'll see how many you clap for this next comment. And it took an NDP government to continue that vision. Oh, come on. If you can't have fun up here, then when can you have fun? So I will move it along. A couple of other really exciting things if you haven't heard about. So in Calgary a couple weeks ago, I announced with Minister Hare and COSIA a very exciting project, which of course, I'm not. The Carbon Conversion Technology Center. Now, if you haven't heard of this, I absolutely love it. And I'll tell you a story about one of the quarterfinalists. This is also partnering with XPRIZE, which I think is a great avenue. This is using innovation to solve problems. So it's a center that the province put in $10 million, the federal government put in $10 million. COSIA is helping with operating costs, and XPRIZE has put in a bunch of money for these companies. And I met with one of the companies. They're taking CO2 and turning it into useful products. So, and this isn't about someone has an idea and some kind of moonshot. They've already proven it. Now they need to commercialize it on a scale to be able to sell this technology. So one company that is using CO2 and not investing it. They're putting it into cement. It makes the cement 30% stronger. It's cheaper to produce cement, and it's greener. And this company is doing it. And so what I love about this is a project taking a byproduct and turning it into something useful. And this is innovation at its core, and this is where we are partnering with the private sector and other orders of government to help make this happen. And honestly, Alberta can and will be the world leader on finding usages of, that's a hard word to say, of CO2. So anyway, I will thank our partners for that. I want to talk just really briefly about trade and what's going on around the world. There's been a few changes, in case you haven't noticed. One of the things that we've done in the last couple of weeks, the Premier put together 4 different round tables, one with oil and gas, one with the agriculture, agri-food sector, forestry, and manufacturing. And what the purpose of this is to talk about a coordinated strategy between government and industry working with the new U.S. administration. The meetings were extremely positive. We've got, and I was talking to John about this, companies like Repsol that operate in both countries, reaching out to their counterparts in the U.S. to show not just the value of trade with Alberta and with Canada, but the value of trade on their economies, on their communities. And any changes, be it a border adjustment tax or a tariff, to help demonstrate the negative impact it would have on their economies. I can tell you that we are also working very closely with the federal government. Alberta has an office in Washington, co-located in the U.S. Embassy. And so our senior representative talks to Ambassador McNaughton on a daily basis. We work very closely with the U.S., and there really has been a Team Canada approach that we are embarking on. And I can also say with pride that Premier Notley was the first premier to go down and meet with the new U.S. administration out of any of the provinces across the country. There are some of you in the room who participated, and I know Glenn's here from EDC, on the trade mission that I led last November to Asia. I was very excited to lead the largest trade mission Alberta has ever led. We had 86 businesses and business associations participate on that trade mission. We had over 150 people attend trade and investment conferences, and we were met by 350 Chinese participants. So well over 100. I think in most there was about 150 Chinese companies that met with us that are very interested in Alberta, in trading with Alberta and increasing trade and investing in our province and partnering with our businesses. What I will say is that I encourage you to look into and explore opportunities to participate in trade missions. And one of the things we've done, we've introduced the Export Expansion Program, which provides companies or municipalities or economic development associations, I can't hint anymore, of funding that is available to help you participate on these trade missions, because we want to work with you to open up new markets that will again help create jobs and bring investment back to our province. And I'm over by like 15 minutes. My staff's face is like, no, I'm joking. But well, no, I'm not joking about being over 15 minutes. You know that. So what I would encourage you to do is all of the programs I talked about, and there are a number of others that, again, are at the website jobsplan.alberta.ca. But I need your help to spread the message that there are supports available for our businesses, for our municipalities, for our economic development agencies, that we want to partner with you to help get our province back on its feet and back to where we were and where we all know that we can go. Alberta is incredibly creative, innovative, and resilient. And we know we've been through economic downturns in the past. Guess what, folks? We will be through economic downturns in the future. But what we can do is work to create a much more resilient, not only economy, but help support our businesses, diversify our economy, and ensure that Alberta is the leader that the world needs for the 21st century. Thank you very much. Have a great night.